You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Welcome to another episode of I Must Ask You a Question with Jen, Michael, and James. You know that kid who looks like a scientist at the beginning is just incredible. Like, it gets me every time. Every time.
The music on it makes me feel like what you're going to see on the screen when that finishes is going to be like some rock and roll looking dudes. And then you get me, soccer mom.
And you get me, the diabetic. And we get Swirly Mustache McGee over here.
Yes. How are you guys doing? I know both of you were kind of down for the account. I know you were, Michael, and my wife got COVID and for the second January in a row. So I had to stay away from her for like 10 days, and I didn't get it, which is crazy.
Lucky.
I'm really lucky. Again, that's dodging 2 bullets. I say that, but where's the wood? Okay, knock. But yeah, it's been wild just getting stuff ready for taxes.
Yeah, well, it's your busy season, right?
Yeah, for the finance gig too. Like, it's for everything. So we'd get all kinds of certain numbers. Again, as you know, being a business, you have to get you try to get as many 1099s as possible out by January 31st. Mm-hmm. So you're on a deadline there, and it's interesting from our back end is because we have a lot of foreign creators and a lot of they don't have 1099s because they're in different countries, and certain countries have different stuff. So it's all these little things that you don't know what goes behind, a publishing company, but you have to handle that and make sure the reporting's good. And being a finance guy, I always try to do stuff by the book as much as possible, and that's why I've been successful in that line, I think. And it's very overwhelming, especially when you have that ticking time, deadline and everything else. Everything that can happen usually happens during that time. So it gets crazy.
What is the deadline this year?
The deadline, I think usually it's the 15th, but let me see here. Let's take a look. The 15th falls on a Saturday, so it's most likely the 17th, which is a Monday.
Gotcha.
But what's interesting is, this is really boring, exciting talk about taxes in this area because of the hurricane. It's really hard to get a hold of my CPA because any extension that's normally due on October 15th or 17th, because we were that's when the hurricane devastated us like a week or two prior. They kicked it until February 15th. So he's super extra busy because anything affected by Hurricane Ian was given an extended period of time. So it's like double fold for the CPAs in this area. It's crazy. So I've been doing kind of both of that with a lot of my clients, making sure that they have their proper 1099s and W-2s and all those boring form names. But how's the new year going? As business-wise, Jen, is like, you feel if January, since we're on February 1st, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. How would you feel like January went? Was it good, bad, normal?
So this is the same thing that happens every year. Like, people think that everything drops off right as December happens, and it's not really true. January tends to be a good month because people haven't gotten their bills in yet from December necessarily, and they have like gift card money, or grandma and grandpa gave them money to spend. So for us, we don't see that downturn until February, and February is a short month, so it's a doubly tough month for probably all of retail. But January, I don't know. For us, at least, it seems to be a decent enough month. It doesn't have like a precipitous dropout like you would think would happen.
Do you think it did better than last year at this time? If you compared like this year and last year?
I'm kind of interested to go and look because I had to do a bunch of financial stuff for an industry article that wanted a little more data based, a little anecdote based on data. Kind of like you would see from like Hibbs. He gets deep into the numbers a lot.
Yeah.
But, so I did that, comparing our numbers in specific categories for the last 6 months of the year for 2021 and then 2022. And it was kind of like an eye-opening, but
care to share
for just regular discussion. Well, I mean, I can tell you what I saw that was weird was that between 21 and 22 in the category of comic books, dollar amount between those dropped some kind of crazy amount, like 40%. But what I looked at was the amount of units sold. And what I figured out was in 2021, we were still riding on that big surfboard of everyone was buying really expensive books to invest in. That was when, you know, everyone was buying Pokemon cards and all of those other kinds of like high dollar things. Everyone had a price point in mind that was fine. And then when recession hit the next year for us, that last 6 months right before the end of this last year, we didn't have those kind of high dollar buys. So that was what happened. Honestly, it was like the difference between people, you know, coming in and buying, you know, high dollar slabs and then their more normal buying pattern. So that was a weird thing to see. And then the other thing I saw is that our graphic novel amount changed. It was like more like an 8% change. But
decrease or increase?
For that, it was a decrease, but it was also, let's see if I can get this right. It was either a decrease in number or in the number of books sold, but it was actually higher than the year before. And I think it was a decrease in numbers of books sold, but a higher number in dollars than the year before for that period.
That makes no sense to me.
Funny. That's like same thing kind of happened with us, like a very similar trend that we have this master spreadsheet that I put in. Shout out to Nate Poteet. He's a good friend of mine that I play softball with, and he's like the master of spreadsheets. And probably about 2 years ago, he's just like, hey man, like, I don't even know how the conversation happened, but he made this master spreadsheet where we can take from all our sales from like Shopify, from PayPal, from third-party channels like the Diamond, Lunar, Universal, Simon & Schuster, and put them all in one. I mean, there's still a lot of manually adding things.
Sure.
And I did it for the year end because we got to run year end numbers. And I noticed the same thing is that sales across all channels were down, but the profit margin was up, which was nice because the sales down, but the margin was there. And just noticing slab books have just, I mean,
and so that's the reason that the dollar amount has gone up, because we're selling slabs.
No. I'm saying slab books in general. I'm sorry, I transitioned. The price per slab went down significantly. I don't think people are buying slabs like they were before, and that's why I was curious with what you said, because I still feel like the slab market is mainly for Silver Age and Golden Age and like the older books. I'm sure you saw it, like everyone has seen an appreciation on those key first appearances. But as far as modern books go, I don't think, like the slab market, I think has taken probably a 40 to 50% drop with modern CGCs, in my opinion. Which, I mean, I love collecting, hence why we're all here, right? Yeah. I appreciate the slab, but from a publisher and a creator standpoint, it makes me angry because you can't read it. That's ultimately what we want people to do, is read our stories, right? And
I'm court appointed, so I'm here for a different reason, but you know.
Oh, okay. Yes. And I know your parole officer is behind that red curtain in the back.
You know, he's doing great.
Okay. He's trying not to be involved, but he's got an eye on you. I can see his little flashlight.
I just became friends with my FBI agent through my webcam.
So, no, I don't know. Like, slabs are great. They're pretty, you know, but it's just the cover. You can't see the gorgeousness that's inside or read that story. So I've seen our graphic I mean, it was just such a weird year for us. 4.5 months out of the year, we couldn't print comics. First 2.5 months, nothing because of the paper shortages. Our paper price went up 20 to 40%, depending on which printer it was. What else? There was a self-imposed break in May, which I still don't understand why we did. And then we had the hurricane, where basically from the second week or the last week of September through third week of November, we weren't printing anything too because of the hurricane. You know, stuff was in process, and it just, when you look at that and you take that out, and we still managed to do about the same that we did last year, it was pretty remarkable. So
you guys were also really, really kind of like, you know, getting into the trenches and doing what needed to get done.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just like did like you normally would do, just like do publishing and wholesaling, all that stuff, it would have looked different than if you were like, let's have events at the, you know, the Scout headquarters, and let's have big online pushes and all that stuff. You guys
that saved us.
Yeah.
That honestly saved us because of what we went through. Like it was creating that new product like Pressworks, where essentially it was trash that we turned into treasure. Yeah. And we're really starting to build that market. And I'll tell you, everybody, if you haven't seen it, like these printer plates are so freaking cool. I mean, we have a little community now who's been purchasing them like ravenous. I know there's one, her name is Loserang on Whatnot. She probably has 250 of the printer plates from us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But like what you were saying before, like the slabs are kind of like going down because you can't really open them. But like technically the printer plates are giving you the kind of same spice.
It is. Like, but here's the difference. In order to get that book that was in there, you needed that plate. So to me, it is a piece of comic book history. And like when I've done some of those shows, like I'm just fascinated looking at it, where it's like I have the plate and then I'll have the comic. Like I did a show yesterday with trade paperbacks, where we're doing the trade paperback, you know, and then also the plate. Mm-hmm. And it was just so cool to think that, like, in order to get this trade paperback, you had to have this. Yeah. And we deal in a business of rarities, and it doesn't get much rarer than that, right? Like the one page that does it. So that was pretty awesome. And just from a creative standpoint, to see where it was, we found out about it on my birthday last year. So it was like the best birthday present. Like Trevor and I, he's been my best friend since middle school, and he's our warehouse manager. He's been here for about 2.5 years. And we went over to go visit our printer, and it just stumbled upon it. Like we were showing like the whole offset printing press. And it's like, what are you doing with those? Because we just saw them, and they're like, nothing. It's like, we need to talk. And then Trevor and I were talking, and it was just awesome. Like we were originally doing it on like 2 pages where it laid flat, but that was just too hot, too much money and too much stuff. And to get it where you can store it in a long box is like perfect. I don't know. It's just, that's some of the successes that we had this year. So I'm very, in a nutshell, anxious, because I think this year, at least on those other distribution channels, it's going to be more of a normal year, knock on wood. And, you know, the good news is our printer is up and running. I think just as of like a week or 2 ago, they're good. So I think for the first time in over a year, they're getting paper regularly. Their print stuff is up. I mean, I haven't talked in too detail about their buildings and the fix-it stuff, but I just hope for everybody's sake, you know, like creators, shops, and of course publishers, that we just get some semblance of normalcy. And hopefully it's not like too bad of a recession, and maybe we're coming out of it instead of, you know, coming into it. Yeah.
You know, I have in the back of my mind, because I know Patty and Laz's printer plates were lost, but a part of me is just hoping that like maybe there's some dude who didn't notice a closet that it was just like, you know what? Holy crap. And it's like a whole bunch of mangled like cardboard and stuff. And then they open it up, pristine. It still works.
And to see like the vibrant colors in Patty and Laz, there are going to be some nice, there are going to be some nice ones. Hey, we have issue 1 when it comes.
Yeah.
You'll have issue 1. So it's cool.
And honestly, issue 1 is going to be a bit of a remix of the ash can. Yeah,
you add right. You're going to use some of those pages and add a lot more to it. Yeah,
it's not just using some of the pages, because it's a completely different perspective. So the ash can is what is what my main character remembers of the inciting incident, and then the issue 1 is what's actually happened. So it's almost, that's how, when I rewrote it, I was just like, there's the memory that you see, like it's always like super cut for exactly, like whenever you have like a memory of like a fantastic piece of your history, you're just like, oh man, yeah, you hear music, there's cinematography, but I'm just like, no, the issue 1's going to be what actually happened. So if anyone buys the ash can and they have issue 1 and they compare the two, I have subtle differences and different
I love
things.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they're like little things. Are just like, oh, wait a minute, this didn't happen, and I want her to reference certain things that happen in the ash can. And if you want to know what happens, perhaps you should get it.
See, I love that. See, that's the quality of storytelling when you have it, that character development and that kind of story. That like that's what makes comics fun. And Jen, speaking of which, 2023, this is the year of the ash can for you, Miss Jen. Yeah.
I need to write so badly, but I just have so much stuff.
Hey, I feel your pain. I'm the same thing. I got so many cool stuff like planned. But yeah, and the bottom line is we have to schedule time to do it.
Yep.
You know, even if it's an hour, time blocking. I mean, that's one thing that I had training with Edward Jones, which was the firm I started with when I was a broker, or I am a broker, but when I started. And they were all about time blocking. So if you feel like your day gets chaotic, if you time block and literally set timers, I mean, now we have watches and phones. It's set a timer and then move on. Just be like, nope. You know,
my biggest problem right now is that the next 6 months for me is going to be reading, and reading some more for Eisner judging.
I know. Congratulations. I was going to bring that up. That is so cool. So cool. And
so
I think
any free time I thought I was going to have,
and not to, again, don't want to influence you, but Yasmin, if you haven't read it already, highly recommend.
Yeah, you know that I'm going to bring all my favorite stuff from all my favorite publishers to the table, even if it doesn't, like, make sure you put it up there for like, people don't know that you have to submit for nomination. So
we have a big list. We do it every year. We kind of talk.
Make sure it gets into the consideration list, and then I can be like, I've read this. You guys should all read it too.
And if you guys haven't read Yasmin, I mean, not to pick any favorites or anything, we don't like doing that at all. But like, it's just such a powerful story. It's so incredible.
Yeah.
Hey, I know that I'm going to be going out to Florida at some point and seeing you out there. I want to write something with you so bad.
Oh, yeah?
I feel like our stupid sense of humor works so well together. There has to be something.
I do want to write comedy, man. Like, I feel like doing some comedy stuff.
You guys would be so good at that together.
Oh, it'd be great. I mean, at the very least, we should do the local stand-up and just, go back and forth at the stand-up club.
I would love it. I've done a few open mics in my life. And they've all
you really? No, wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
That's awesome. Mean, I'm the right kind of insane to do it, right?
Yeah.
I've done it a few times in my life, and the first time I did it was in college. And I just remember it wasn't like I was saying anything inappropriate, but people, the kind of face of shock and awe, and I'm just standing up there and just like, what I'm saying can't be that bad, right?
If you have to ask yourself that, then that's usually not a great sign.
Yeah.
Oh man. So
Michael, because he's unfiltered.
He is unfiltered. Oh, it's great. I mean, some of the best times when I go up to New York is hanging out with Michael and just like, it's especially, I mean, you've been to a couple of our shows in New York, Jen. You've been to the booth. It's just chaotic. And his sense of humor adds a nice level of like, if you get too stressed, then all of a sudden Michael will say something that completely comes out of nowhere. It kind of knocks you back down to reality. It's good. Yeah, you do have to come down. It's great. My wife's looking forward to it. I think when you meet my wife, you guys are gonna be like two peas in a pod, man.
I can't wait to meet her. I can't wait to meet her.
My goddess Lean will love Michael, and then you guys will team up on me, and then I'll I'll be like, hey guys, what about me? And you guys will just be hanging out and giggling.
I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome. So I have a question for you, Jen. Hottest book. I want to do something at the end of the month this year, every month. I want to know what the hottest book is for that month. Like just back issue, because again, the collectors know. What would you say the hottest new release has been so far in 2023, in January of 2023, where you're like, man, that did really well. It doesn't have to be from us, by the way. There's a caveat. I just want to know in general.
If it's just by sheer amount of things that like we keep on ordering reprints and they disappear anyway, it's 8 Billion Genies.
Nice.
I mean, they're
Great
on
series.
fifth printing for #1.
Love it. What are they at? What printing?
5th printing for #1 came
That's
out
great.
today.
That's crazy.
Have you heard of that book, Michael?
No, I want to read this. 8 Billion Genies is also an amazing title.
Yeah, and it's literal. Basically, everybody in the world gets 8 billion people.
I remember you telling me about this. Yes. Damn, I need to read this.
The fact that it's only a limited series depresses me. I think I only read the first 3. Again, I wish I had time to read, but I read the first 3 and I love it. Charles Soule, he's just such a good writer. He did another very underrated book that I'm hugely fond of, and I actually read it half of it again because I didn't finish it. So it's funny. I say I finished half of it and I was like, oh, I got to start it over again. And I got pretty much to the point where I stopped and then I stopped again. It's Letter 44, which was done by Oni. And that was a great one. A concept there is new president takes over and there's a letter that the previous president, who he hated, writes him. And it's basically like, hey, aliens are real. They're heading right towards us. We had a secret space mission that's been planned and this all falls on your lap. Have fun. And it's just such a good story. And he's he does a lot of the Star Wars. He did, I want to say Darth Vader, right? He was one of the writers of Darth Vader.
Yeah. And my other favorite series that he's done with Ryan Brown is Curse Words.
Curse Words. I haven't read that one. I don't know why I haven't.
It's ridiculous. You'll love it.
It's ridiculously funny.
I'm usually partial to stories that work as a limited series because the potential to expand from there, like if they can condense a phenomenal story in a short package, usually they have a lot more ideas cooking for that story. Because that's
they used to call them story arcs, right?
Yeah.
When you had an ongoing series, there were story arcs within the ongoing. I really, really wish. I think there's a I don't want to sound controversial, but I think this is a controversial topic. So I hear retailers say we want more ongoing series, but from a publishing standpoint, pre-order number wise, retailers do not support ongoing series, which is why I think a lot of the publishers, even the bigger ones, constantly reboot and they constantly do #1. I feel it's like one of these, like this back and forth that there's no winners in this equation. But that's what happens. And now I'm taking off the publishing hat and I'm putting on my creator hat. And it's like, I wish I can continue to do a ongoing series, but as a creator, it behooves me to come up with new ideas and start new, hoping that hits. I wish we had more. Correct me if I'm wrong, if this is true or not, Jen, but Something is Killing Children and Once and Future by Boom. They start off as limited series, and I think Boom had the budget and the pockets to it. Both series around the same time caught fire, and they went to the creators and be like, "Hey, we're turning this into an ongoing series." You know, I can't wait until we get on that end. I think because you can capitalize off it and look at it. I think here's another thing I want to ask: like, would you say something is Killing the Children kind of filled the void of Walking Dead as the most popular indie title?
Maybe, and it's kind of an interesting thing, right? So when it started coming out, it was fairly regular, but it became really hard to get those early issues no matter what you did. And now I feel like it's slowed down somewhat, and people will still buy it, but I think maybe it's lost some of its big heat, if that makes any sense. I don't see.
From what I understand, like what they did, it was probably a sales thing. Is they could have told the House of Slaughter within Something is Killing Children, but they did, I think he stopped and they did that mini series or whatever series.
That's right. You're right about that.
And I think maybe that killed the momentum of the regular series by doing that.
I unfortunately think that at least in our experience with what we see selling off the rack. It's true.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for Saga. I mean, it may not be like for our store specifically, the heat that he had, even after the 3-year hiatus, when they took that second like stop, like the new issue that just dropped. I don't know that I had anybody come for it, which is disheartening because that series is so good.
So good.
So good. Yeah. If I'm thinking about, hold on, I think that as a retailer, I don't care about formatting ongoing versus miniseries, but I do need to know the ongoing continuity. Yeah, I would say just taking off, like I don't know Western comic books as much as I know about manga. And when approaching manga titles and long-running manga titles, and like they're known for their single continuity, right? Like Batman is a franchise. It has multiple continuities and multiple universes. But then you have on the other side, manga like One Piece, Naruto, the big names that everyone kind of knows off. Attack on Titan is another big one. They approach their issue 1 as their limited series. They submit their log line as to what the characters are looking to do, meaning what's their, like in Attack on Titan, Eren is looking to destroy all of the Titans. Like that's showed to you in chapter 1, episode 1, bar none, but then they have to submit the full series breakdown, not the first arc. We're talking beginning, middle, and end for the entire thing, and projected how many issues they're looking for. And then they can start marketing as a long-running series. They release the issue 1 in Shonen Jump or in their regular magazines, and they release polls. Like they pull data, just so much data saying, hey, how did this respond to you? And they see whether or not they can go ahead with the story. That means they've only invested in the first issue, but if there's enough heat in the first issue, people know that it's going to be a continuing story. They can go towards a goal. I mean, One Piece is famous for its logline. There once was a man named Gold Roger. He had fame and fortune. He left all of his treasure in One Piece, and that inspired the new pirate era, and our main characters looking for the One Piece. It's easy, but the story is broken down because every location that he goes to is its own mini arc, almost like its own mini series within it. It doesn't have multiple number 1s, but people know the breaks between the arcs, and so the fan base is aware of every new arc, and it's not a pick and choose. It's not a sense like, oh, I can read this and I don't have to read this. They know. It's like Lord of the Rings. You have to know the full continuity. They're invested, and that's why their online platform, like Shonen Jump's online platform, they know that it's entirely built on stories with long continuities. They say you can get the last 3 chapters for free, but if you want to get everything from the very beginning, you have to subscribe. And then people have to, because they're like, I need to catch up. I need to know what everyone's on about. That's why you have shows blowing up like My Hero Academia, Attack on, like, it's built around the idea that this is supposed to be long running. This is going to be a decades-long journey.
But with manga, they don't do single issues. They're straight to those tanks, right?
So
they do.
So they don't sell single issues, but they have individualized magazines. So you'll have issue 1 in a magazine that's let's say Shonen Jump, which is supposed to be like your 13 to plus boys. And so they'll have issue 1 of One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, and something else. And then they'll take poll data from every single issue that's released within those magazines. And they're printed on super cheap paper in black and white. Their work schedule is crazy. They release those weekly. I don't see that happening here anytime soon because people would die. But because they're able to release with such frequency, they're able to get that data. Like 1 month gives you 4 issues and tells you trends. It tells you exactly how many eyes are on particular sections of the book, because they have advertisements in between it. They can get the advertisement data. They can say, oh, people have actually bought a lot more when the positioning of this ad is next to this book. It's crazy. The machine that is manga is tried and true, and it's just like there's some way to break into it. I've been doing a lot of research, and it hurts my brain, but I love it.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it with comics, like with standard comics. It's just so hard because we're we're all used to doing those single floppies, and it's I don't know, like, going back to that topic is what do you think, Jen, as far as like what's the middle ground? How do we fix that? Because I mean, I love when I first started doing comics, I could pick up Amazing Spider-Man number, 276, and I'm a kid and I can follow right or wrong. It's in arcs. Like how do you think we get back to that ever again, or no?
It's such an easy fix, but it does take like some real effort. So if you want to have a customer base that is coming in for comic books that they're reading and not just putting away in a box, then you have to create the water cooler atmosphere. And that means your staff has to read the books, and that when their customers come in that they know are reading those books, they have to stand and talk about what's going on in the book and what they're excited about that's going on in the storyline. And then it makes it part of like I not only like reading the book, but I also like going to my LCS and talking about the book and, like hypothesizing about what's happening next and all those things. It really is, since we live in a world of AI and easy buy things online, have it shipped to your house. It really truly has to be that there is an experiential part of the books. And that means, strong LCSs giving time to their staff to read what they have.
Yeah. I mean, event-based books are like, because I mean, how do I say this? Whenever One Piece releases a new arc, and I'm using One Piece just because it's the longest, most successful, so it's the first.
Oh, for sure.
Whenever they release a particular comic book or a particular issue, they will have an event around a particular theme. For instance, if a character is finally discovering something, they'll release marketing that's like you remember Toonami back in the day, like how they would use a series to tentpole everything else. If we were able to bucket or create like little book clubs or something around certain stories that we have, you could manipulate things so that folks are just like, oh my God, the new Billy and Genies is coming out. But the conversation isn't just about Billy and Genies. Now it's a part of the bucket. Like Billy and Genies can go with, let's say, Solar Flare and The Mall, and obviously other books. And people are saying, oh no, I have to get this series of books. And then suddenly people are talking about that particular wave, not the third wave.
Look at that. You just integrated all of them. It's impressive.
I mean, that, right? Because people get to know their, like if you're talking about book club or LCSs or whatever, that people will get to know, like they'll have their favorite employee that they're like, okay, that employee recommended this book and I loved it. What else can that employee recommend? So that's what, I mean, it doesn't have to be related, just exactly like you were talking about. It's just like, okay, well, if you like this, I also love these other things. That happens for me all the time, where people are like, whatever Miss Jen recommends. Yeah. I've never been steered wrong. So you can hand.
And by the way, that happened on today's show. I was talking about Charles Soule. You said curse words. I never got around to do it. That's now on my list.
Yeah.
To grab that. Like and I think that's the power of the comic store. And I know we're going a little over, so I just want to leave everybody with this. Is my sister owned a comic store for a while, and in Seattle, and it was Odyssey by Matt Fraction. It was like a retelling. It was an image book retelling of Homer's Odyssey. And I remember reading it. It was just not my type of story. And I'm a huge fan of Matt Fraction. And it was like right around the time, I think it came out around the time as Immortal Iron Fist, which is my jam. And I just remember I didn't really like it. Well, my sister's in Seattle, like the heart of Amazon country. I think there's like a whole street that's just Amazon, and it's not that far from her. And I was looking at her sales numbers, and she sold, I think, 75 plus copies in a quarter of Odyssey trade paperback, full price.
Yeah.
And that's the power of the comic store and I think most of the comic stores the owners don't realize this or need to be reminded, is you guys are the first influencer. You see a lot of comic influencers now that are on YouTube and everything that are amazing and great, but really each and every one of you as a comic shop is an influencer. And I don't think they take advantage of that enough, quite honestly. in it is their recommendations. But again, I get it. Busy. You have to do taxes. You have to do employees. You have a family. You have all this. Where do you find time to read? You know? So it's actually, now that you're on the Eisner committee, and you're going to even be more of a person to go to ask, because you have to do all that reading.
I've talked to lots of people that have been past Eisner judges, and they said that the year that they were an Eisner judge, they know more about every book that was released in that year than any other year before.
Yeah, ever. Absolutely. We do that. I don't know if you knew this. At our shop, we have 15-minute reading time where everyone stops, and we set a timer and everybody reads, because I like exactly what you said from a comic shop point of view, from the publishing, is these people are fulfilling orders and they're know it and see what they like. And it's so awesome. They have favorites, By the Horns. That's our saga that I've said multiple times is absolutely adored here. I mean, they can't wait until the next issue. So, but again, thank you guys so much for coming out today again for our I Must Ask You a Question, our 1st of February edition. Yeah. But we hope everyone has a great week, and we will see you next week for another episode. But Jen, Michael, as always, it's a pleasure to hang out with you guys and talk shop. Take care, everyone.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.